Okay, here's a nice question to solve where it's a quadratic equation. So if it's a quadratic equation, we basically have three ways to solve it. Well, maybe four. One is you set it equal to 0 and then factor. The other, you set it to 0, and then if you can't factor, use the quadratic formula. And then the other, I guess the other way, if all you have is an x squared and no x term, like we have in this one, you can say x squared is equal to whatever the number is and use the square root principle, making sure you put a plus minus there. And then the last way you can solve these is by completing the square. So with this question here, since I have an x term, I can't do this one. So let's try and set it equal to 0 and then maybe use a quadratic formula. So that it's not a 0 over there, so I need to bring the 14 over this side. So x squared plus 8x plus 16 minus 14 equals 0. Or x squared plus 8x plus 2 equals 0. Now I can use the quadratic formula. X equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, that's a 4, all over 2 times a. So x equals minus b, b is an 8, plus or minus 8 squared minus 4 times a is 1 times c is 2, all over 2 times 1, which is just 2. So if I simplify that, I get minus 8 plus or minus, that'd be 64 minus 8, I think it's 56. So 56 over 2. Now, I'd love to divide this 2 into there, but I have to divide it into both. I can't divide it in this one because it's a square root. But maybe I can simplify 56. I'll bet 4, which is one of those perfect numbers, will divide evenly into that. So it'd be minus 8 plus or minus root of 4 times, how many times is 4 going to 56? 4, 14 times. All over 2. Continuing on, I'd get minus 8 plus or minus the square root of 4 is 2, root 14 all over 2. And then the 2 will now divide into both of those. So I'll get minus 4 plus or minus 1 root 14, or just root 14. Okay, so those would be my solutions. And that's how to do it using the quadratic formula. Turns out that this one, I think you can solve this a little quicker by completing the square. Let me show you. X squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 14. This is a perfect square here. If you were to factor that, it's x plus 4 times x plus 4 equals 14. There's two of those, they're identical, so I can write it as x plus 4 squared equals 14. And then I can use the square root principle on that. So square root both sides. So x plus 4 squared, square root equals square root of 14, making sure I put that plus or minus there. The square root of a square cancel each other, so the x plus 4 is equal to plus or minus root 14. And then I take the 4 to the other side. It's positive here, so on the other side it'll be minus 4 plus or minus root 14. And if you take a look, that's what I had on the other side too. Okay, so you can do the question in multiple ways. Typically, we just say solve. If we say solve using complete the square, this is what we're looking for over here.